For all your t-shirt needs, check out TeePublic's Killer Selection. Follow the link in the description.
Night of the living dead. The dead who live on living flesh. Dead whose haunted souls hunt the living. The living whose bodies are the only food for these ungodly creatures.
Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and today I want to talk to you guys about George Romero's seminal 1968 classic, Night of the Living Dead. Now, this is partially going to be a review / discussion of Night of the Living Dead, as well as a review of this 50th anniversary Blu-ray release for Night of the Living Dead from Mill Creek Entertainment, as well as a review request as the user Chasic Ladams requested in the forum section on my website to do a discussion on Night of the Living Dead. So I'm covering all of the bases with this review / discussion of Night of the Living Dead. And now it seems kind of pointless to even do a plot synopsis for Night of the Living Dead, because I'm assuming that if you are a regular viewer of mine, you not only know what this movie is about, but just how important it is. With Night of the Living Dead, George Romero and his Pittsburghian cohorts created an entire subgenre. No other filmmaker, forget Master of Horror or not, can make that boast. Before Night of the Living Dead, zombies were the henchmen and lackeys for the mad scientists and the romantic vampires who were out in the fields doing the grunt work while they seduced the damsels in their gothic castles. With Night of the Living Dead, George Romero kept the zombies blue collar. However, they are undeniably us. We are them, and they are us. The threat is your next door neighbor, your best friend, your loved ones. And there is something just undeniably disturbing about the thought of being torn apart and eaten alive by a horde of decaying dead people. Now, the zombies in Night of the Living Dead aren't quite as fully realized as they were in Romero's follow-up Dawn of the Dead. They're dead, they're all messed up, the reanimated corpses of the recently dead, and they have but two objectives: to kill you and eat you, and not necessarily in that order. The movie is a bit rough around the edges. The acting, the editing, the sound, it's all a bit crude, to say the least. However, I think a lot of those aspects actually help the film create this kind of documentary look and feel. And shooting the film in black and white just created this overwhelming sense of dread and apocalypse. The acting is pretty decent overall. However, Dwayne Jones is by far the standout in Night of the Living Dead. His portrayal of Ben is really easy to get behind. He is by far the most likable character in the film. He is forthright. He is kind of, proactive, get up and go. If we're going to survive this thing, we've got to take action. He's also black. Night of the Living Dead marked the very first time an African-American actor starred in a horror film. And Romero denied any kind of trailblazing attempts in casting Jones. According to Romero, he was simply just the best actor that he knew. But I think Romero had to know just how against the grain this casting choice was, particularly at the time. I think this was Romero the provocateur maybe coming to the surface a little bit. But kudos to Romero for casting Jones in the role, for having the cojones to cast an African-American actor as the lead in this film, and even give the African-American character a sequence in which he slaps a white woman's character because she is absolutely hysterical. And it was a sequence that Jones did not initially want to shoot out of fear of public retribution. However, Romero talked him into it, and Jones grudgingly did the scene and slapped the hysterical white woman. The film isn't graphically violent. There's no real gore. The zombies don't sport any elaborate makeup effects. But watching Night of the Living Dead for the first time in a long time for this review, I thought to myself several times, audiences back in '68 had to be shocked watching this movie. This had to be a mind-blowing cinematic event. Audiences in 1968 had seen nothing like this before. Night of the Living Dead was so ahead of its time. Again, I cannot say this enough. It created an entire subgenre of horror. I can only imagine sitting in a theater or in a drive-in watching this movie for the first time in 1968 with an audience and people just being either completely blown away by how different and how edgy the movie was, and others just being absolutely disgusted by it. I'd love to go back to 1968 and sit in the audience and watch this movie and see people's reactions, because I think it would be pretty astonishing. Yes, the movie is rough, but I think those aspects work in the movie's favor more so than they don't. This time around, watching the movie for the first time in a long time, I was really taken aback by just the overall atmosphere. The movie is just awash in this bleak, apocalyptic, dread-filled atmosphere. And I also like the performances. Yes, even Barbara's performance, which is a little bit annoying, but I think that really kind of grounds the movie. That adds some realism to it, because if you were in a zombie apocalypse, there would be people just like Barbara who just completely and utterly shut down. There would be people who are all about them and theirs, like the Cooper character. And there would be people like Ben who, in vain, is trying to save them all. The ending of the film really had a big impact on me this time around, when Ben is shot by one of the gun-toting locals who's out, having a zombie hunt, either because Ben is mistaken to be a zombie or because Ben is black. You make the decision. And the end credit sequence, which is composed of those still photographs of the locals rounding up the dead zombie bodies and throwing them into piles and setting them on fire. And we see how they're treating Ben like he was just another zombie. They don't even touch him. They use hooks, and they hook into his flesh and drag him over and throw him on top of a bunch of dead zombies, and they cremate them all. There was something really profoundly sad and chilling about the ending of Night of the Living Dead this time around for me, and that only added to the overall bleak and dread-filled apocalyptic feel of the movie. Without Night of the Living Dead, there would be no contemporary zombie fiction of any kind. I know that's a huge statement to make, but so was Night's impact. And it's an impact that 50 years on, we are still feeling. It's still just as evident as it ever was. I mean, look at all the zombie movies. Look at all the zombie comic books. Look at all the zombie novels. Look at all the zombie video games. And that's just in the U.S. Don't even think about, how much the Italians loved Romero's zombies and how many, Romero-inspired zombie movies came out from Italy. None of that would exist without George Romero and Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead was a watershed moment for horror, period. It's a classic, hands down, without a doubt. Again, I cannot say it enough. Night of the Living Dead created an entire subgenre. George Romero created contemporary zombie fiction. That cannot be overstressed, in my opinion. And it all started with Night of the Living Dead. If you have not seen Night of the Living Dead, you owe it to yourself to go and watch the film. To think about all that it inspired, this tiny little movie with a really small cast, a really small crew, and no money, and really the people who were making it kind of didn't really know what they were doing. To think about all of the zombie fiction that has been produced because of this little movie is overwhelming. This Blu-ray release from Mill Creek, it has no extras on it. However, the picture quality and the sound quality were both good, I would say. There's no elaborate new restoration of the film according to the back of the Blu-ray. It just says 1080p high definition. It looked good. The sound quality was good, but no extras. However, you can pick up this Blu-ray on Amazon right now for like $8, and for $8, I would say it's definitely worth it. Please share with me your thoughts on Night of the Living Dead and the film's importance down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. If you have a review request for a movie that you would like to hear me discuss, follow the link in the description. Head over to the forum section on my website and post it there. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace.
Night of the Living Dead. A bizarre adventure in fear. An experience in shock, more shattering than your strangest nightmare. Night of the Living Dead. A night with the dead who cannot die. A night of total terror. Night of the Living Dead.
Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.